Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 2023 Waves. Yes, that's better. I know this is the very first session, so I'm so glad to see so many people skip the casino last night and is able to join us this early morning. Also very excited and pleased to be back to our original in-person format. I know last year was hybrid, so we're so excited to be here in person with our partners and friends from the VA training team. Our first session here today is going to be the new SCO Training, so if that's what you're here for, you're in the right room, and if not, you're welcome to still stay and hang out with us. So we're going to introduce our first presenter is Marit Solem, training specialist with the National Training Team for Schools at the VA. Welcome. Yes.
Thank you so much. As she said, my name is Marit Solem. I'm a training specialist with the National Training Team Schools. Just a little bit about myself. I'm coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota today, and I have worked for VA for 12 years, just had my 12-year anniversary. I actually started working for Veterans Health Administration as a voc rehab counselor in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then I transitioned over to Veterans Benefits Administration and worked as an employment coordinator and a voc rehab counselor for veterans. I'm going to call it Veterans Readiness and Employment, the right name. When I worked for them, it was still voc rehab and employment. So. And then in 2019, I joined the EDU team. I was the ELR for the great state of Wisconsin. And then a couple years ago, I was invited to join the National Training Team Schools as a training specialist as we're rolling out the digital GI Bill. So that's a little bit about me. Just a few ground rules for today. I'm going to ask you if you have a question in the middle of the presentation. If you can just jot it down, we are going to have a time for questions at the end of the presentation. I know it can be hard when you have a burning question, but please save those for the end. Darcy is going to facilitate a Q&A period for us. And I'm also going to ask you for some grace. We have a lot of information to cover today. I do not like death by PowerPoint, but some of this information is a little bit dry. I'm going to do my best to keep you engaged, but I do need a little grace when we start talking about public laws, the Code of Federal Regulation. It's not exciting stuff, but it's necessary that we know it. So I'll ask you for some grace. There's a few topics that I will definitely be reading from my notes. I'm not going to try and do that very often, but I'm just going to put that out there to begin with. So I appreciate any grace you can give me today. And they gave me this fancy thing, and it has a laser pointer on it. I told them I shouldn't be trusted with a laser pointer, but they still gave it to me. I'll try not to blind any of you with it, okay? So before we get started today, I just want to get to know you a little bit. And I recognized as I was looking through my presentation that I maybe missed, should have had section 5 or number 5, but how many of you have been in SCO for 0 to 3 months? Wow, that's a lot more than I anticipated. Good. What about 3 to 6 months? Okay, good. You guys are in the right place. 6 to 9 months? Okay. 9 to 12 months. And then is anybody over 12 months? Okay, good. That helps me just understand who I'm speaking to, so thank you for that. So to get us started, I have a really exciting video that I'm going to show you. So you have to watch this video, and the AV guy is going to help me get it. Oh. I promise, we're going to get it. Woo! How many of you have ever felt like that as an SCO? Yes? Yes. That is my son. He is 6, and that was his first attempt at ski jumping. Okay? And there's going to be another video at the end, so you have to stay tuned for this whole presentation to get the reward of the end. But one thing about the sport of ski jumping, which I've just recently been introduced to because I've got some adrenaline junkie kids, and I may be a adrenaline junkie myself, is that there's a lot of different conditions that you can ski jump in. If you notice there, he was ski jumping in the middle of summer. And then they also ski jump in winter. So as a ski jumper, you have to be prepared for all these different conditions, just like you as an SCO have to be prepared for all these different conditions. So stay tuned because we're going to see the second video of him jumping. I think you're going to be impressed at how much he improved. So one thing I want to talk about is I talked about the material being a bit heavy. So I've broken up the presentation. After it gets a bit heavy, we're going to take a break, and we're going to get some good advice. So Brendan Fitzgerald, does everybody know who Brendan Fitzgerald is? He runs the office hours every month. He's a great guy. He sends his regards. He and I started something called the SCO Collaboration Group. And that consists of 20 school certifying officials that have been school certifying officials for a very long time. They're very looked upon in their state or in their region as somebody that people can get good advice from. And we run this group, and they actually helped us do a lot of the testing with Enrollment Manager. But in this instance, I looked to them and I said, I'm going to be doing this training on new SCO trainings. What is some advice that you would give to a new SCO that's just starting out? So throughout this presentation, I have sprinkled in here some good advice. So this is the first one we have for you. Don't be intimidated by all the rules. Yes, there are many moving parts, and you may still be learning new things long after you've started the job. Just roll with it. It will be okay, and don't be afraid to ask questions. So just make sure that as you are becoming a new SCO, you find some of these SCOs that have been an SCO longer than you have, and you partner with them because they have a lot of knowledge. And you guys certainly have already done that because you're at this conference. And I think that's really going to be helpful for you. You're going to have to be a sponge this week. You're going to have to take in a lot of new information. So, first of all, congratulations on becoming a school certifying official. We have a lot of different names for you, and I'm sorry if any of them offend you. I know I typically use school certifying official or SCO. I know SCO is used as well, and some people don't like that, so I apologize if I use that in this presentation. It's just kind of muscle memory sometimes. But as an SCO, I'm sure you've already figured out that you're going to wear many hats and that you're going to take on a variety of tasks. And you're going to have to help a lot of students and VA in helping our veterans and their beneficiaries achieve their education goals. So this training that you're at today is a very high-level introduction to the pertinent information that you will need to know in order to be successful in your new role. So we have some learning objectives for you today. The first one is to discuss an overview of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs education benefit programs and processes, defining the responsibilities of the school certifying officials, identifying the responsibilities of the state approving agencies, and I did see there is a lot of opportunities to engage with the state approving agencies during this conference, so make sure you do that. And then recall points of contact to receive assistance with questions. So we're going to start out with a little activity, and if you don't know the answers to these, don't beat yourself up, okay? It's just kind of to get a baseline of where everybody is at. We are going to do this activity, and then we're going to get into the more information about each benefit. But I'm going to describe a situation, and I'm going to see if you can figure out which benefit this person would be using if they were at your school. So the first one, Joe was a reservist who was contracted for 6 years, earned a high school diploma or equivalent, and completed his initial active duty training. What benefit would he maybe be using? Does anybody know? Awesome. I forgot to bring my prizes. So you get bragging rights today. So the next one, Jane is the daughter of a veteran who is permanently and totally disabled due to a service-related condition. What benefit is she using? Awesome. Bragging rights for you too.
Can you repeat the answer so we
Chapter
can hear the back?
35.
Thank you.
Yep. Bill entered full disclosure here. There's a typo on this slide. It's supposed to say June 30th, 1985, not June 20th. The 2 is supposed to be a 3. Bill entered duty after June 30th, 1985, and served 24 continuous months of an initial enlistment of less than 3 years and his qualifying period of honorable service. What benefit is Bill using? Does anybody know? Chapter 30 is correct, whoever said that. Great job. Bragging rights for you too. Jill served at least 90 days on an honorable active duty after September 10th, 2001. What benefit is she using? Post 9/11 GI Bill, Chapter 33. I heard it over here somewhere. Good job. Okay, and we have one more. Denise has a service-connected condition and is attending your school in order to find suitable employment. What benefit is Denise using? Chapter 31, everybody knows, yay. All right, you guys don't even need this training. These are good to go. I'm just kidding, we're gonna do it anyways. So, typically the VA education benefits can be broken into 2 main categories, the Chapter 33 benefits, post 9/11 GI Bill, and non-Chapter 33 benefits. That includes Chapter 30, Chapter 35, Chapter 1606, and then also Chapter 31. Chapter 31 isn't an education benefit. It is a very separate program within VBA, but I'm gonna touch on it in this presentation, but I encourage you all to attend the presentation by Mr. Nick Pamprin on Wednesday. He's gonna be doing a full overview of that benefit. So, the VA education benefit process is, we're gonna kind of review the benefits and then also the process. So the process includes the application for benefit, which I'm sure you're all a bit familiar with, that enrollment certification, the VA payments, and then the use of va.gov. So first up is that application for benefits. So sometimes that might start with a student before they come to see you, or maybe they come to see you and you have to kind of tell them how to do that, right? So the student submits an application for VA education benefits, and then we have 2 RPOs. Does anybody know where those regional processing offices are? Bragging rights for this question too. Muskoge's one of them. Where's the other one? Not St. Louis. St. Louis had one and they closed it. Buffalo's the other one. So once the application gets sent, it either goes to Muskogee or Buffalo, and it goes through the processing system, so they review the application to determine if they're eligible. So they either approve or deny the application, and then they notify the student via the certificate of eligibility or denial of benefits letter. So then the enrollment certification, as you all are probably aware, we just switched the way that you certify the benefit from we sunsetted VA once, and now Enrollment Manager is the new methodology to certify students. So the school certifying official has to submit the 1999, the paper form was called the 1999, so they still call it the 1999, even though it's electronic. And then submit the initial enrollment within 30 days of the beginning of the term, and then report changes in enrollment within 30 days of any change, including that mandated second certification. So I am going to talk a little bit about Enrollment Manager. Is everybody in this room using Enrollment Manager? Raise your hand if you're using Enrollment Manager. These lights are really bright. It's really, okay, so there's a few of you that aren't. That's what I wanted to assess, thank you. So these are, there's several trainings in the SCO Training portal, and I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth to the SCO Training portal later in the presentation. But see, I can't move from the microphone because then you can't hear me. I'm not good with microphones. So this is what the SCO Training portal looks like. And it may look a little bit different today just because we shift things around, but you just have to go on the left-hand side and find the Enrollment Manager trainings. And there's the Enrollment Manager 100, 101. Everybody takes those to get to know enrollment, or highly recommended that you take those. And then there is the Enrollment Manager 102 based on your facility type. So if you're at an IHL or an NCD, you would take that basic actions for NCD and IHLs. And then if you're at an OJT or apprenticeship site, do we have any OJT or apprenticeship sites in the room today? Raise your hand if you work at an OJT or apprenticeship site. I don't see anybody here, okay. And then do we have any flight SCOs in this room? No? Okay. So everybody in this room would take that basic actions if you haven't taken them and you need to start getting access to Enrollment Manager. There is the Enrollment Manager user guide right there. There's a link to it. And I believe these slides will be provided to you after this presentation, I think via the app. And that link is embedded into the slide. And for those of you that have not logged into Enrollment Manager yet, these are just slides to show you how to do that. So there's the id.me and login.gov account. Don't throw anything at me. I'm not the one that made that rule. It's just what they've decided to use to authenticate your identity. And we do have to protect the identity of our veterans. And so we have to make sure that, I know sometimes in VA once people were like sharing VA once logins. That's not the case with Enrollment Manager. And then you go and authenticate your identity and you request access to Enrollment Manager through the third link. And then you receive either an approval or denial email. And then hopefully it's an approval email and you can just log into Enrollment Manager. And our good friend Shay, the queen of Enrollment Manager, is going to be speaking later today. I would really highly recommend, if you want to know like a lot more about Enrollment Manager, to go to her session today. I believe it's at like 1 or 1:30. So there is a specific 1:30. Thank you, Darcy. So there is a specific session today set up specifically for Enrollment Manager. This is just kind of a basic overview. And there's just some screenshots of what you have to fill out for first-time access. I'm assuming we don't have anybody from a foreign facility here, do we? Okay. There's some tricks if you're a foreign facility that are a little bit different, but that's how you submit your request for Enrollment Manager. Oh, look at that, we have more good advice. So this one is write out your processes. When I first started, I created cheat sheets for every single step of a certification, each benefit chapter, how to calculate rate of pursuit. Studying these really helped me master them. So payments, that's what a lot of the veterans and beneficiaries that come to your office are very concerned with. It's kind of hard to pay rent if you're not getting your payments, right? So the VA payments, so Chapter 30, 35, and 1606 is a monthly benefit paid to the student. And Chapter 30, the tuition and fee payments are paid to the school, and then the monthly housing allowance is paid to the student, and the books and supplies stipend is paid to the student. Chapter 31, I'm going to let you go to Nick Pamprin's presentation for that. And you really have to work with the voc rehab counselor because there's some extra things with Chapter 31. So I didn't cover it on these slides, but I will do just a brief on that in a little bit. So it is highly recommended that students register on va.gov. They can manage a lot of their information on that website. And they can get up-to-date information on their educational entitlement. They can get their direct deposit updated there, personal contact information, downloading their VA letters and personal documents, and then reviewing the current status of their payments, both education and disability. So if your veteran is not using that, it's a really good resource for them to use. And if they're really struggling with it, I know I've worked with a lot of different veterans in my VA career that maybe had limited technology skills and didn't have really the ability to do that. There are these wonderful service organizations that can help them with that. So hopefully in your area you can get connected with some of the service organizations, DAV, American Legion, NABVETS. There's all these service organizations out there that are specifically out there to help veterans with their disability claims, with applying for benefits. So that's not something that you need to take on. The veteran might think it is something you need to take on, but it isn't. There are all these resources out there to help them with that. So if they don't have the skills and abilities to get on there and get their accounts established, try and get them connected with a veteran service organization. That's my biggest piece of advice. So we're going to review the different education benefit programs. We're going to do the non-Chapter 33 benefits, the Chapter 33 benefits, and then the additional benefits. So we're going to start out with those non-33 benefits. Has anybody in this room, and you don't have to say if you don't feel comfortable, has anybody in this room used any of these benefits themselves? Yeah, there's a handful of you. So there's Chapter 30, that's the Montgomery GI Bill active duty. The Chapter 35, that's that dependence educational assistance. And then there's Chapter 1606, that Montgomery GI Bill selected reserve. So there's a lot of different eligibility requirements for these programs. And you guys already passed the test with flying colors. So really, this is just a review. So Chapter 30, eligibility requirements, that's that June 30th, 1985. You probably don't see a lot of the Chapter 30 people coming through your office. A lot of people have transitioned over to 33. So you probably don't see a whole lot of this, but we are going to cover it just because it does still exist. So it was entering active duty after June 30th, 1985. If enlisted less than 3 years, service person must serve 24 continuous months. If more than 3 years, service person must serve at least 36 months, must have qualifying period of honorable service, and had military pay reduced by $100 a month for the first 12 months of service. So those, again, are the eligibility requirements for that Chapter 30. Not going to see a whole lot of that. Has anybody in this room seen a 30? Okay. So there's still a few of them out there. Chapter 35 eligibility requirements. The spouse or surviving spouse of a dependent child of a veteran who is permanently and totally disabled due to a service-related condition. They died in service. They died of a service-connected disability. They died while evaluated as having a total and permanent service-connected disability, or is listed as a POW or missing in action. So that would be those 35 students that you may see coming to you. The 1606, the reservist must have contracted for 6 years, have a high school diploma or equivalent, and completed initial active duty training. So those are the eligibility requirements for those non-Chapter 33 benefits. And now we're going to get into the benefit payments. So for 30, 35, and 1606, the payments are made directly to the student, and the payment is prorated for the numbers the student is certified for the month. So if the student is certified for a whole month, the full monthly benefit is paid. If the student is only certified for part of the month, the benefit is prorated as follows. We use a 30-day month at VA, okay? And so you have to divide the monthly rate by 30 to get the daily rate. And this is a really fun thing to do if you've never done it. In Veterans Readiness and Employment, guess who does the calculations for all of the awards? The Voc Rehab Counselor, manually. I have calculated many of awards in my day. And then if there's an overpayment, it gets even more fun. And if there's an underpayment, it gets even more fun. So they use the 30-day month. So if the student is certified from the 1st through the 15th, they would just get paid 15/30ths of the full month benefit. So you take whatever the rate is, divide it by 30, you'd get the daily rate, and then times it by 15. That's a lot of math for whatever time in the morning we're at. 8:29, especially for some of us that are traveling through time zones. Training time. So I talked to a few people that are on clock hours, and I think a couple of them are in this room. So the theory instruction predominant, 18 clock hours per week if your theory instruction predominates. And that's going to be full-time. And then if shop practice instruction is predominant, 22 clock hours per week are considered full-time. So that's for people that are on the clock hour system. Then there's the credit hours. So credit hours do not reflect the total number of hours a student spends in class. They do reflect each course's workload. So a little bit more on that. This gives a little bit more of a rundown of that 18 hours if it's classroom theory predominant. 18 is full-time, 13 to 17, three-quarter time, 9 to 12, half-time, 5 to 8 are less than half-time, and 1 to 4 are quarter time or less. And then if you're at a place that does clock hours and that shop practice predominates, then it has the scale there. The 22 hours are full-time, 16 to 20 are three-quarter time, 11 to 15 half, 6 to 10 less than half, and 1 to 5 are quarter time or less. And undergraduate courses for a standard quarter or semester, that is annotated here. So it's the 12 for full-time, 9 to 11, three-quarter time. And again, this is a standard quarter or semester, not to be confused with a non-standard term. Non-standard terms are a lot different. And this is also undergraduate, okay? 6 to 8 are half-time, 4 to 5 are less than half-time, and 1 to 3 are quarter time or less. Is everybody tracking? Everybody's with me? I see some thumbs up, I see some heads shaking. So that means that you guys are hearing me. So next we're gonna cover those Chapter 33 benefits. So that's one of the most widely used benefits. Have any of you taken advantage of Chapter 33? Yeah. So you have experience with it yourself, which always makes it easier to help other people, right? So the eligibility requirements for that. So this is generally an individual who served a minimum of 90 days or at least 30 days if received a disability discharge on active duty after September 10th, 2001 will be eligible for the educational assistance under the post 9/11 GI Bill. So qualifying service includes active duty served as a member of the armed forces or as a result of a call to order to active duty from a reserve component under Section 688. I'm not going to read all the numbers. There's a lot of the numbers. That's where it gets fun with all of the different Code of Federal Regulations and public laws and all that. So effective October 1st, VA began paying benefits to members of the Army National Guard and Air National Guard for qualifying service under Title 32. And then effective December 31st, 2011, VA began paying benefits to members of the United States Coast Guard Reserve for service under Section 712 of Title 14. Any service performed on or after December 31st, 2011 shall be creditable. And then effective August 1st, 2018, which is more recent, VA began paying benefits to members of the armed forces called or ordered to active duty from a reserve component under all of these different sections of Title 10, and benefits cannot be paid retroactively with this service. And then effective August 1st, 2018, VA began paying benefits at the 100% benefit level to individuals awarded a Purple Heart after September 10th, 2001. So that's a lot of eligibility requirements to cover. But you guys don't have to determine their eligibility, luckily. This is just informational for you to know. Never try and tell somebody what they're eligible for. Please don't do that. Send them to either a service organization or to the application, and VA will make that determination. So you don't have to memorize these. So the Chapter 33 benefits. So effective August 1st, 2009, all programs had to be offered by a degree-granting institution of higher learning and approved for Chapter 30. And then students who elected Chapter 33 and relinquished Chapter 30 or 1606 received benefits for approved by programs not offered by an IHL. These students were paid for these programs as if they were still receiving benefits under the relinquished benefit, but their entitlement was not charged under Chapter 33. Also, like, a lot of information right there. Let VA determine the entitlements. Let us determine what was relinquished and what wasn't. You don't really need to memorize this stuff. It's just here so you know that these dates existed and that things have changed. But then effective October 1st, 2011, VA began paying the post 9/11 GI Bill benefits to individuals pursuing the following approved non-IHL, non-degree programs. So that's when the start of the non-college degree, the OJT and apprenticeships, flight, and correspondence courses started. So periods of eligibility. So this is kind of like the before, the after, and who's familiar with Colmary? Colmary came out in 2017. Ooh, I was right. There's a lot of dates to keep track of. So is anybody familiar with, most of you are new, but Colmary was a big, big, big law that was passed in 2017 that's what impacted branches and extensions becoming a thing. But this impact eliminates the 15-year limitation. So January 1st, 2013, Chapter 33 benefits expired after 15 years from the date of the last discharge. And then January 1st, 2013, children of deceased service members who became entitled to the post 9/11 GI Bill and spouses using the Fry Scholarship no longer have a time limitation to use their benefits. And then with Cole-Mary, that really eliminated that 15-year limitation in a case of a veteran who, and then it has all the eligibilities, released from active duty on or after 1/1/13, honorably discharged from the armed forces, released with honorable service and placed on the retired list, temporary disability retired list, or transferred to the Fleet Reserve, or released with honorable service of further service in a reserve component. A lot of information here, folks. Don't feel like you have to memorize all of this. It's just for informational purposes. Again, VA will determine their entitlement, determine what their benefits are. But it is helpful to know some of the history as you're in your job and doing the certifications for the veterans. So the entitlement, typically, and there's always exceptions to every rule, it seems like, the 33 are generally entitled to 36 months of entitlement. And individuals are generally limited to a maximum of 48 months of entitlement when using benefits under 2 or more programs. That's when it gets even more crazy, when a person is eligible for more than one program. So individuals eligible for benefits under the National Call to Service Program and Chapter 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, or 36 of Title 38, did you catch all that? Or Chapter 107 and 1606, the Hostage Relief Act of 1980, there's just so many different ways that they can be eligible for more than one benefit, really is all this is saying. So just be mindful of that. And then that benefit relinquishment. So there was an opportunity that started on or after August 1st, 2009, that students that were eligible for that Chapter 30 or 1606, they could relinquish that benefit to get 33. And students eligible for more than one benefit must relinquish one benefit to receive the 33. And then after you relinquish that benefit, you can't go back after that. So once it's relinquished, you can't say, oh, just kidding, I want to get that other benefit back. So elections can be withdrawn. Well, so I'm contradicting myself here. They can be withdrawn if the regional processing office, which are where?
Buffalo and somewhere.
Yeah. Receive the withdrawal request before either a certificate of eligibility is issued or a payment is processed. So in most situations, you can't take it back. Election can be changed if the RPO receives the change request before either a certificate of eligibility is issued or a payment is processed. So it can be withdrawn or changed in very special circumstances, essentially. But if somebody's going to relinquish, they better be pretty certain they're going to relinquish, because there's no guarantees on the withdrawal or the change. So the benefit payments for Chapter 33, as you probably all well know, the tuition and fees, there's tuition and fees, and the monthly housing allowance, and the book stipend. And there are some people that are not eligible for 100% of the Chapter 33 benefit. So I'm going to go over that here in a second. And that's based on length of service. So here's the service requirements. At least 36 months, or at least 30 continuous days on active duty, must be discharged due to a service-connected disability and awarded the Purple Heart. All of that is 100% of the maximum benefit payable. At least 30 months, but less than 36 months, that's that 90% tier, okay? And then the at least 24 months, but less than 30 months, that's 80%. And there's a little caveat down here, if the service requirements are met in both the 80 and 70 percentage level, the maximum percentage 70 must be applied 2 months payable. And then 18 months, but less than 24 months, at least 12 months, but less than 18 months, 70%, at least 6 months, but less than 18 months, 60%, at least 90 days, but less than 6 months, 50%. So that's actually like, if they've done at least 90 days, but less than 6 months, and that excludes any entry-level skill training, they still can get that 50%. So that's a pretty good deal for them. What chapter can you use if you're only eligible at the 50% level to get paid at the 100% level? Chapter 31 will pay, like if you're only eligible at the 50, that's like a huge advantage to people that have a service-connected disability. So they have to have at least a 10% rating, but if they're only getting 50% under 33, they can go apply for Veterans Readiness and Employment, Chapter 31, and get paid at the 100% level. It's a really big advantage. And plus they get 12 additional months. So, and again, we're gonna talk about 31 here in a minute. So the tuition and fees, they're paid directly to the school on behalf of the student when the school enrollment certification is processed. And then the U.S. public schools, actual net cost for in-state tuition and fees after the application of any waiver, scholarship, aid, or assistance provided directly to the institution. And we didn't have any, oh, we do have private schools here though, right? Yeah. So private and foreign schools, the lesser of the actual net cost for tuition and fees after the application of any waiver, scholarship, aid, or assistance provided directly to the institution or up to the academic cap. So that's all for Chapter 33 for those tuition and fees. Are we solid? Okay. So the books and supplies. So the books and supplies after August 1st, 2009, that was a lump sum payment paid directly to the student when their certification was processed, and it was like a certain number, 4167 per credit, up to 24 credits for the academic year, and then the maximum stipend is $1,000 per academic year, and active duty students not eligible. And then effective, October 1st, individuals enrolled in a degree program while on active duty are now eligible for books and supplies stipend of up to $1,000 per academic year. And then books and supplies stipend for NCD schools, apprenticeship, and OJT programs in an amount equal to $83 for each month effective August 1st. So you guys don't have to worry too much about the book stipend. That's kind of on the veteran. But just know there's been history with that book stipend, and it has changed. And then the fun monthly housing allowance. That is paid directly to the student in the beginning of each month for the previous month. So if they're going to school right now, what month is it? It's July. So if they're going to school right now in July, they'll get paid August 1st. So, and it'll only be paid while the student is not on active duty and is prorated by the student's length of service and the rate of pursuit that we talked about a little bit. So the rate of pursuit is something that is specific to Chapter 33. It differs a little bit from the training time, and the school certifies the actual number of credits, and then the VA calculates the rate of pursuit by dividing the number of credits being pursued by the number of credits considered to be full-time. So that's that rate of pursuit. And then the MHA is paid if the student's rate of pursuit is more than 50%, and they determine whether a student receives or doesn't receive the housing allowance. And then if the pursuit is more than 50%, the student receives the housing allowance. And then there was with an effective August 1st, 2009, students with an online and resident course can be paid MHA at the resident rate if the rate of pursuit is more than 50%. And then you all know about the online courses. It's 1/2 of the national average. So if somebody's just taking, except for during COVID, we had the COVID provisions, but most of you maybe weren't around during the COVID provisions. There were some COVID provisions that allowed us to pay in residence during COVID, but those have ended. But if you hear a student complaining that they want to get the in-residence rate for going online, it was a thing for a short period of time during the COVID provisions. So verification of enrollment, sorry. This came to us via the Isaacson and Rowe law, Part 1010 of the Isaacson and Rowe law that came out requires all recipients of Chapter 33 to self-certify their enrollment. So they can verify their enrollment via text, email, or phone. And it's only for Chapter 33 students. So that's the only chapter that needs to worry about this self-certification. And so this differs from the monthly certification process for non-Chapter 33 students who are required to provide the release to their monthly stipend. So there is a process for the non-Chapter 33, but this is different from that. So you as school certifying officials, you are not allowed to verify for the students. You do everything that you're mandated to do an enrollment manager. You do your certification, your second certification in enrollment manager, and that's on you. The student also has a responsibility to certify or to verify that they're attending as well. So that's something that the students will need to be aware of. So kickers and additional contributions. There was, when you enlisted, there's an opportunity for somebody when they were getting into the military to sign up for the kickers. So under 30 or 1606, they may receive the kicker. Under Chapter 33, it's just a little extra amount that they receive. But they had to have done it when they were enlisting. But if they ever use the term kicker, it doesn't impact you too much. It's just some extra money they're getting on top of their monthly housing allowance. And it's not up to you to figure it out for them. It's just helpful if they start talking about a kicker that you're maybe aware of the term. That kickers do exist, and that's something that was done with them while they were enlisting. So Chapter 30, additional contributions. So under Chapter 30, they are not payable under 33. So maybe they did pay for it, but if they relinquished 30 and went to 33, then they're not going to get it under the 33. And then eligible individuals receive payments for Chapter 30 and 1606 kicker payments on a monthly rather than a lump sum basis. So it's just added to their monthly rate. And I don't know if it actually comes as 2 separate payments or 1 payment to them. But again, just something for you to be aware of, nothing that you really have to manage. So this is my favorite slide. So I did mention I was a vocational and rehabilitation counselor up until 2019. So that's where my heart always will be, is helping veterans with their education journey to find employment. So it's very important, though, that you know this is not an education benefit. This is not an education benefit at all. It is very separate. It's a separate business line within Veterans Benefits Administration. And it is very much an employment program. They actually have 5 different tracks that that a person can apply for. There's rapid access to employment, where somebody just gets help finding employment through that program. There's employment through long-term services. That's most of the people you're going to see, where they're set up on a plan with a goal of getting a degree to help them get employment. They also have a self-employment track and an independent living track for somebody that maybe has a very significant service-connected disability and don't anticipate returning to work. And I missed one of the tracks. Well, that's okay. Go to Nick Pamperin's presentation on Wednesday, and he's going to give you all the details of Chapter 31. The most important thing for you to recognize as a school certifying official is that it is not a guaranteed program. So a person can be found eligible but not entitled to the program, depending on their employment situation. So very much their employment situation dictates if they can get Chapter 31 benefits. So for you as a school certifying official, the most important thing that you need to know is you still need to certify them in Enrollment Manager, okay? The difference they have some differences that they need to see, and that's like between you and the counselors. Hopefully you can get in communication with a counselor. I know they've had a lot of turnover with their counselors, and we did just have the VOC Rehab or Veterans Readiness Program present at our last office hours. But the other interesting part about Chapter 31 certifications that is very different from anything else is their billing and their invoicing. They use what's called tungsten. Who here thinks tungsten is a swear word? Yeah, so that's the shift in perspective. I used to sit in my office, I kid you not, with like a stack of invoices this tall to pay. And like I did mine pretty timely, but you can very well imagine that if there's a stack of invoices this tall in every counselor's office across the nation, that not all those are getting paid in a very timely manner. So the invention of tungsten is helping people get paid more quickly. So it is, like Darcy said, if you were around pre-tungsten, it was like you weren't getting paid like very quickly. And so this has really expedited the payment process to your school. I understand there are some aches and pains with tungsten, and that's why I've provided you with this email address and this phone number for tungsten. And if you go back to our office hours, that was in June of 2023. There's I don't know what the website is. I just always type in VA webinars, and Google brings me to our VA webinars page, where it has a listing of all of like the trainings that we've done, like the office hours, and then it also has a link to the recordings. We post those all on our YouTube channel. So there was a really awesome slide, and I apologize for not including it in this presentation, but there was an opportunity for people to log into like a tungsten training. So if you're newer and you need to get trained on tungsten, the June office hours has a really good slide in the slide deck. And I don't know that the June office hours is posted. There's a pretty rigorous process that we have to go through before we can publish anything. And last time I checked, it hadn't been posted yet, but it will be posted very soon. And there's a slide in that slide deck that gives you like this opportunity for like a 1-hour tungsten training. So if you're having any difficulty with tungsten in that invoicing process, that would be a good training to take. And then also trying to develop a good relationship with your VOC rehab counselors in your area is super helpful. And then again, Mr. Pamperin, their executive director, is coming on Wednesday to speak. So make sure you attend that session if you have a lot of 31 students and need any assistance with that. So there are some additional benefits that we're not going to get super in depth in today, but you should be aware of them. The license and certifications or national test, it's called LACUS. Those are very specific approvals. I don't think any of you would be like a LACUS. It's just for people that are looking for that national license and certification test. And it functions a lot differently than any other benefit, but there are facilities that are approved just for LACUS. And then there's vocational flight, the transfer of entitlement program, the Fry Scholarship Program, the Yellow Ribbon Program, and I know that there's a presentation later today on Yellow Ribbon. Are any of you here approved for Yellow Ribbon? Okay, so those of you that are raising your hand, make sure you make it to that Yellow Ribbon training. I think that will be really helpful for you. And then the STEM scholarship, that's an available extra benefit. The tutorial assistance, and that's actually really helpful for somebody that might need some tutoring. There is some tutoring assistance if a veteran is really struggling. So you might want to check that out, or at least provide them with that information. Have them look into it and figure it out. You don't have to do it for them, just let them know it's available. And then that tuition assistance. And then there's a link embedded into this slide for you on that. Woo! That's a lot. Good thing we have some more good advice coming up here. That was a lot of information. Give yourself some grace, just like you're giving me grace today. You don't have to absorb all of this today, okay? So the next piece of good advice from an SCO for an SCO, develop relationships with your functional offices, registrar's office, financial aid, and students' accounts and bursar offices. And this one, I gotta get my pointer out for this one. Be prepared for anything to change at any moment. I'm gonna repeat that. Be prepared for anything to change at any moment. I became an SCO in July 2019, certified enrollments for our whole nursing class, and in August, the VA decreed that hybrid classes could be certified as residents. So I had to redo all the certs for the nursing students because at the time they were the only ones who had hybrid classes. Just roll with it. It will be okay. Okay? And then I did stick a knowledge check in here, just for fun. Is this true or false? Chapter 30, Chapter 1606, Chapter 19 are 3 types of non-Chapter 33 benefits. Good job. It's not, Chapter 19 is not an option. Chapter 35 is. Okay, that was a lot. Does everybody need to get up and stand and stretch for a minute, or are you doing all right? Doing all right? Okay. So, now that you know all about those different benefits, the non-Chapter 33, the 33 benefits, we're going to talk about expectations of you. We expect a lot, and I get that. There are a lot of expectations on you as a school certifying official. And anybody that disagrees with that statement, I don't know. We have a very different perspective in life. So some of your responsibilities: VA rules and policies, reporting, certification, training, and compliance surveys. So, the VA rules and policies. There's principles of excellence, Public Law 116.315, Section 1018. That all comes with that Isaacson and Rowe. Veterans Benefits and Transition Act of 2018. Benefits and Transition Act of 2018 waiver, reporting fees, equity of charges, and VA's last payer. So we're going to go through each of these. So does anybody know if there are principles of excellence school? How do you know you're a principles of excellence school? Yep. So your Principles of Excellence School, if you have signed up for it, and then it is on your 1998 form when your ELR sends you your updated 1998 form, the Executive Order 13607. I'm not sure why they don't just put Principles of Excellence and why they put Executive Order 13607, because that would make sense, I guess. It's established for education institutions serving service members, veterans, spouses, and other family members. And there's like a list of principles of excellence that you agree to provide high-quality student support and service. Compliance with these principles is assessed during compliance surveys at participating schools. And then that's where you find out if you're a principle of excellence. If the box next to the Executive Order 13607 on VA Form 1998 is checked, your school's agreed to abide by the principles of excellence. Maybe when they upgrade WEAMS, do you know that we're upgrading WEAMS, everybody? Are you excited? I'm really excited. It's going to be called Approval Manager. So Enrollment Manager replaced VA once. The next system that's going to have impact on you, not as much impact as Enrollment Manager has on you. That's like the bread and butter of what you do. But Approval Manager is going to replace WEAMS in some months. I keep getting shifting dates, so I'm not going to give you a specific month. It's going to be great. That WEAMS system does need some updating. So I just thought I'd bring that up because that's where you would find the principles of excellence. Is that noise in the hallway impacting anybody else? No, just me? Okay. We're good. I can ignore it. Public Law 116-315, Section 1018. So it just codifies in statute. Schools must provide a covered individual with a personalized shopping sheet and maintain certain policies, provide graduation information, seek appropriate accreditation approval, and designate a point of contact is requirement 1. So the school shopping sheets was also a swear word for a while. I don't think it is anymore. Darcy, is it still? Oh. So because Darcy was a Principles of Excellence school prior to this becoming law, she was already doing the shopping sheet. So if you have any questions about shopping sheets, Darcy's your lady. So requirement 2, the state approving agency will take action when a school violates specific provisions of the law. So you do need to provide like the student with a overview of the cost of what's going to be associated with their education. That's the whole shopping sheet. The Department of Education has a sample shopping sheet or college shopping plan on their website if you need like a template. But that was like a big hot topic for a while. So just know about that. So this is the, I don't like talking about like public law. Section 103 of Public Law 115-407. That requires you all to like let somebody attend your facility while they're maybe waiting on like a eligibility determination. And if you're not compliant, the SAA can get mad and disapprove you if you're not compliant. But just make sure that you're letting people attend if you know they're waiting on their determination. And then there are waivers for that. And it must have like all the reasons listed here and then a target date for you to become in compliance. I don't think too many people run into problems with this. Just be a good human being and work with the people and the veterans and the beneficiaries, and you should be good. Okay, reporting fees. Who's familiar with the term annual reporting fee or ARF fee? Good. We've got a few people that are familiar with it. So this is each calendar year. There's like a listing of each student that received assistance during the previous calendar year is printed by VA for each institution. And then schools are provided a reporting fee based on the number of students who were certified to VA at least once during the year and who received VA education benefits. So there is some tracking going behind the scenes at VA. And so October 1st, 2011, clarified any reporting fee paid to an education institution or joint apprenticeship training committee shall be utilized by such institution or committee solely for making of certifications for those otherwise supporting programs. So you have to use your R funds according to the 2011 update for certifications. And then in 2018, they updated this, if you get those R funds and you have 100 or more eligible students, then the reporting fees paid to the school cannot be used for or merged with the school's general fund. So that's something that would be assessed on a compliance survey. They're going to look and see if you've used ARF funds appropriately. So that talks about that there. And then the amount of the ARF funds, oh, that's not here. It's $16 per student, I think. It went from $12 to $16 per student. So there is a small help that you do get for certifying the veterans. Oh, it's right here. Cole Mary, so in 2017 when Cole Mary came out, the rate went from $12 to $16, and that is part of a CFR. Okay, so equity of charges. So here, who here charges their veterans like $10,000 more than any of their students? Yay, there's no hands. You all passed the test. So you are required to have some equity of charges. So your facility is obligated to charge VA beneficiaries equitably with non-VA beneficiaries. So you can't charge VA students like a lot more or even any more than a non-VA beneficiary for the same course. And then no higher tuition and fee rates than non-VA beneficiaries, and then non-VA beneficiaries cannot routinely get discounts, waivers, or needs-based scholarship grants that are not similarly available. So it's all about being equitable to our veterans, essentially. And you can't write off debts if non-VA students don't make their payments, and then your facility routinely offer time to non-VA students to pay their tuition and fees. Everything has to be equitable to all students, essentially. So VA as last payer, this is an interesting rule. Well, it's not interesting, I guess, but you have to apply any tuition-specific waiver, scholarship, aid, and assistance before assessing charges to VA. So you can't like charge or put tuition and fees of $20,000, $18,000 and submit that to VA and then go and submit any scholarship or tuition specific stuff and then take it off after you submit the enrollment. That makes sense, right? Does anybody have like a state GI Bill? Nobody? Maybe you guys don't know. So there is like some really weird thing in Wisconsin where a school just has to open up a seat to a veteran as part of their like state GI Bill program. And so there's some weird things with the last pair and an exception to this rule with that. So if you're looking at, but it's probably just Wisconsin, those cheese heads, we love them. But they actually have a really, if you're a veteran, like it's a really good place to live. They treat their veterans very well there. So I won't get into any of that, but there is like one exception in that has to do with like state GI Bill stuff with last payer rule. And I'm trying to keep an eye on time, y'all. Okay, we got 50 minutes left. We should be good. So reporting, that's a crucial element of your job. There's a lot of time frames that you need to make sure you meet. If you don't meet them, that will be assessed on a compliance survey. How many of you have been through a compliance survey? Ooh, we got some lucky winners out in the crowd. So a lot of things that are covered in this and what you need to do are assessed on compliance surveys. And we have a few different compliance surveys. And Melanie Ann is going to give a presentation tomorrow afternoon on risk-based surveys. And so I would encourage you all to go to that. We also have a contractor that is called St. George Consulting that performs some of the compliance surveys for us. So SAA can do them, VA can do them, and St. George can do them. So there's a lot of different people that could be asking you to come do a compliance survey. So just make sure that you do your best work to make sure that you are ensuring contact information is kept up to date. Not updating information could prevent VA from contacting your facility. Failure to report required information could have negative impacts on your facility's students, and the information is a crucial element of your job. So the VA Form 228794, this is the designation of certifying official form. This is how you all get designated. It's called the 228794. And you need to submit that anytime that you add a new school certifying official to your facility. So each school will designate at least one SCO to carry out reporting requirements. And we do recommend, here's the slide that you need to give to your administration right here, okay? We recommend one full-time SCO per 200 students. I know some of you that I talked to last night have a lot more students than you have. That ratio isn't happening at your facility. So that is our recommendation. We can't really mandate it, but it is highly recommended. So if you need this slide to show to your administration, take it, run with it. So the designation will be made on the 8794 and submitted. Okay, so this is new, and I don't know what happened here. I apologize. We have an upload portal now. We used to just have people submitting the 8794s to the ELR mailbox. We just did an office hours, boy oh boy, was that May? On the upload portal. No, that was also June. Yep, June office hours, we did a demonstration of the upload portal. So you're going to be expected to submit the 8794, your 8515 calculations, and anything that maybe will be needed for a compliance survey on the upload portal. And I put a link in this slide, but also know that there was a demonstration done by Miss Lori Record in June in the office hours on how to use that upload portal really well. So make sure that if you need to use that, that's there. And it's really important that you make sure, because there is like it takes a minute to get it switched over in Weems to the new people. And then it must include all the names since the new form supersedes the old one. And then also it needs to include, if they're going to be designated, not read-only, they need to complete the new SCO training on the SCO training portal. So it's the certificate from that training portal and the 8794. And this is the 2 certification requirement that came out August 1st, 2021. So that initial enrollment certification, this is just for Chapter 33, is submitted. And then there's a subsequent enrollment certification after the school's drop add period. Whoops. The end of the drop add period is the last day when a student can withdraw without consequence, and then that second certification must be received no later than 30 days after the school's drop add period or 60 days from the first day of enrollment. And then schools without a drop add period, second certification must be received no sooner than 30 days and no more than 60 days from the first enrollment. So that's that second two certification requirement. And so there are 4 accepted methods to satisfy that requirement: the dual certifications, the on-change certifications, enrollment changes, and retroactive certifications. There are a lot of different standards of progress. We used to require schools to report to us if somebody was on academic probation. We do not require that anymore. That is not a requirement for you to report academic probation to VA. The academic suspension, if somebody is failing to maintain the school, whatever you have published in your school's catalog for standards of progress, you must just report this as a termination and terminate the semester the student is suspended. And then if the suspension follows the following semester, then you would terminate the fall semester if you've already submitted that enrollment. And then the graduation, you are required to submit to VA so you actually do you have to report the graduation to VA. And then you'll use the last day of the graduating term to be the date of termination. And that's only for veterans that are using, they're using benefits when they graduate. So if they've exhausted all of their benefits before they graduate, then they don't need, if it wasn't a term submitted, then you don't have to submit that graduation. Okay, are you all ready? You gotta buckle up. Buckle up, buttercups. The other swear word, 8515. Darcy, am I right? Okay. So this is the part where I've asked for some grace. I have done some reading of slides, but this is definitely going to be a lot of reading of slides. So 8515, who has heard that term? Who swears when they hear that term? Thank you for being honest. Thank you. So the 8515 rule prohibits paying VA benefits to students enrolling in a program when there are more than 85% of students enrolled in that program that have any portion of their tuition, fees, or other charges paid for them by school or VA. If the ratio of supported student to non-supported student exceeds 85% at the time a new VA student enters or re-enters, the student cannot be certified to receive benefits in this program. Schools need to use VA Form 22-10215 and 22-10215A, if needed, to report 8515 calculations. All required information on the forms must be completed and approved concentrations must be listed separately on the report. If you are structured on a term, quarter, or semester basis, those calculations must be submitted to the ELR of jurisdiction no later than 30 calendar days after the start of the regular term, excluding summer terms. You get a break in the summer. So if you are not structured, is there anybody here that is not structured on a term basis? Okay, so there's a few of you, a little half and half. If you are not structured on a term basis, they must be submitted to the ELR of jurisdiction no later than 30 calendar days after the beginning of each calendar quarter. Calendar quarters align with quarters of VA fiscal year, which starts in October and ends in September. Clear as mud? Okay. So that was a lot of information, but these forms are very important. And actually the forms have a lot of information about how to fill them out. So make sure you get that. So what is a supported student? Any student receiving any amount of VA education benefits under Title 38 or Title 10, or the student is granted any waiver of forgiveness of tuition and fees or other charges where the institutional policy for determining the recipient of such aid is not equal to respect to the veterans and non-veterans alike. Example, restricted aid, excluding graduate students, or the student receives an institutionally funded loan, scholarship, or grant where the institutional policy for determining the recipient of such aid is not equal with respect to veterans and non-veterans alike, excluding graduate students, or the student is on a tuition and fee payment plan that does not meet all the stated requirements, or the student has not paid the full amount of tuition fees and other mandatory charges to the school prior to the reporting date, unless on a compliant tuition and fee payment plan for the balance. If any of these conditions are met, the student must be counted as supported for the purposes of 8515. So that was all supported students. In order to meet the criteria of non-supported students, students must meet all of the following. The student is not using GI Bill benefits under Title 10, Title 38, Chapters 30, 31, 33, 35, 1606 Vet Tech, and if the student is granted any waiver or forgiveness of tuition and fees or other charges, the institutional policy for determining the recipient of such aid is equal with respect to veterans and non-veterans alike, or is a graduate student, and if the student receives an institutionally funded loan, scholarship, grant, the institutional policy for determining the recipient of such aid is equal with respect to veterans and non-veterans alike, or is a graduate student. And if the student is on a tuition and fee payment plan, it meets all the following requirements. The requirements of the payment plan are published on your facility's website and in the approved catalog. The payment plan is available to any enrolled student interested in participating. The payment plan explicitly requires the student to pay the outstanding balance no later than 180 days from the term, quarter, semester, or enrollment period. The payment plan must be paid in full before students can begin training for the next term beginning on or after the expiration date of the payment plan, and there are no outstanding tuition fees and other mandatory charges owed to the school as of the reporting date. If a student receives multiple types of aid and any of the aid is supported, the student is supported. Supported versus not supported students. That's a lot. So we were having this conversation last night with somebody. So I hope this clarifies some things for that. It's a lot. And I don't calculate 8515 because I'm not a facility. So I think the best thing for you to do is to work with your partners here at Waves and in your state. If you're a newer SCO, ask somebody for some help. Ask them how they are calculating their students, and work with one another to get best practices. There is 35% exemption. So this is another thing, part of 8515. So 35% exemption calculations are based on the overall percentage of the total enrollment of students who are veterans, eligible persons, and reservists receiving assistance under 38 U.S. Code Chapters 30, 31, 32, 33, 35, 36, and 10 U.S. Code Chapter 1606, and are based on actual student enrollments. So, if you are a facility that has 100 students total, like you have 100 students at your school, and 25% of these students use assistance under Title 38 and Title 10, you divide those numbers to get the total number of VA beneficiaries. So the calculation is 25%. So if you have less than 35% of VA beneficiaries, you can get an exemption. You're still supposed to calculate 8515. You're just not required to turn it into your ELR of jurisdiction. So they still will want to see your 8515 calculations if they come out for a compliance survey. You're just not mandated to turn those into your ELR of jurisdiction on those dates, whether you're on a standard term or if you're on a different term. So there is a website with 8515 frequently asked questions. There's a link to it here. So we don't have anybody presenting on 8515 at this conference, unfortunately. But my recommendation is if you're new, most of you are, is to find somebody that is willing to share with you their best practices for 8515. And I don't know if Waves has anybody that is can give recommendations on best practices or anything like that. Yeah, so Darcy's gonna look into that. So that was a lot of information. So take a deep breath, everybody. And don't get overwhelmed. Work with your ELR of jurisdiction and things should be okay. It's just to prevent abuse and fraud. Unfortunately, at VA, there's been an increase of facilities that have decided that VA education monies are a good way for them to make some extra money. And it's taken very seriously. And so this is one way that they try and monitor, making sure somebody's not just getting 100%. Like, I can tell some stories. There are facilities out there really trying to just take advantage of the money that comes along with veteran benefits. So we're not trying to do this to be mean and nasty to you all. It's just important that our veterans are safeguarded, and we're protecting the integrity of the GI Bill. So some more good advice. From an SCO for an SCO, the VA rules and regulations are overwhelming and scary, 8515. But I found that the VA also gives grace. Do not try and hide mistakes. Fix them when they are brought to your attention. You are not alone on an island. There are thousands of people that probably had a similar question and concern. Reach out to your peers. So just the advice that I just gave. All right. So we're moving into some less heavy stuff, I promise, okay? And we've got a half hour left. So have you ever read the book Eat That Frog? You're supposed to eat the hardest thing in your day, like do the task that's hardest for you first. So we got through all of the hard to digest material. From here, for the next 30 minutes, it's more fun, okay? So just the timeliness of non-chapter 33 and chapter 33. The non-chapter 33 can be submitted up to 120 days before the term and must be submitted within 30 days of the beginning of the term. Or if the below circumstances apply, they may be submitted on or after the first day of the class and tuition. The training time is less than half time. Student is on active duty or accelerated payment is requested. The 33 submit certifications as early as possible, but within 30 days of the beginning of the term. And I don't think there's probably a lot of problems with that in this room. So standard quarters, 10 to 13 weeks. Standard semesters, 15 to 19 weeks. A non-standard term, anything that's longer or shorter than the standard semester or quarter. And a vacation period is 7 or more consecutive days. So for the certifying of credit, the tuition and fees, monthly housing allowance, book stipend, and yellow ribbon benefits are based in whole or in part on the number of credit hours certified. And the number of the resident credits and distant learning credits must be reported on the certification. When combined, they should equal the total credits taken for the term. And then the 30, 35, and 1606, you must certify the number of credit hours the student takes each quarter, semester, or term. Resident credit and distance learning credit is reported separately only for 33. And then there's those tuition and fees. So making sure we've talked about that 33s, you have to deduct any tuition-only specific waiver, scholarship, aid, and assistance. The tuition is the actual established charges for tuition student is required to pay. Fees are mandatory charges applied to the school for the pursuit of approved program of education. And I should add, those fees need to be charged to all students. It can't be just like a fun fee. I don't know what a good fee to use. And then tuition and fees must be reported for enrollment periods when training time is less than half time, when the student is on active duty, and when accelerated payment is requested. So, when I was a voc rehab counselor, I had a couple rules for my veterans when they came to my office. And one of them was, if you have a change in your enrollment, you need to call me immediately. I would highly recommend that rule for you to your students as well. It just alleviates a lot of headaches. I felt kind of bad about this one. I literally had like a veteran get in a motorcycle crash and he called me like from the hospital. And I was like, well, but it did help because we were able to get the school certifying official involved and me involved to know, like, make a determination of, are we going to have you, like, what's the severity of the motorcycle crash? Are you going to stop attending? Are you going to just ask for an extension on your coursework? What are we doing here? Because the longer you wait to make changes to the enrollments, the more debts that they can incur. And debts aren't fun to incur for anybody, really. So, I didn't have a lot of rules, but that was one of them. Call me if you're making a change to your enrollment. So if a student makes a change to their enrollment, after the initial certification has been entered, the changes should be reported as an amendment and as soon as possible. And it's really important. I know some other people that didn't get their veterans amended as quickly, and it caused them a lot of financial hardship. So those changes in enrollment are super important. So certifying official annual training requirements. So we go through this slide at every office hours that we do. So it's pretty light. If you miss something on these, that's okay. When you become, I think, has everybody in this room been designated as a school certifying official? So you all have taken the new SCO training in the SCO portal. So this is just the new certifying official training requirements for the portal. And this portal that we have, it's okay if you swear when you use it. It's an older portal. We are looking at getting it upgraded to support you all. So that's exciting. But until we get a replacement and get that figured out, this is what we got. So it's not super intuitive and user-friendly to me, but if you all have gotten in, you know that this is where you go to get in. But these slides are also helpful if you have any transition in staff. You can throw them the slides and tell them, here's how you get in. And then when you get into the portal, on the left-hand side, if you'll click on the tabs, and that'll dictate what comes up on the right-hand side. So when you come into the welcome, you'll see your profile, the instructions, the getting started, and your completion status. So you actually, if you just say you decide you're going to change your location of where you're working for one university and then you switch to another university, you can change your own facility code in here. If you want to change your email address because your email address has changed, you do have to email our contractors. It's like it's going to be on one of the slides, support@vbatraining.org or something. They are our technical support for just the portal. So, but if you're coming to the end of the training cycle and you need to know if you've completed what you need to complete, you can just look at your completion status. So that's, all your profile. And then after you complete a training, you're going to want to make sure that you either save those certificates to your desktop or in a file on your computer or print them out. They're going to want to see those when they come out for a compliance survey. So the feedback button is where you can print those certificates from. And there is this weird way to review courses that you've already taken. If you go to the course itself, it's just going to bring you to the certificate with that feedback button. But if you go all the way down to the left-hand side of the portal, the last tab here is called Review Only. And that became pretty popular during those Enrollment Manager 100, 101, and 102 courses. People wanted to review those. So if you go in there, you can just review material of courses. It's not going to give you completion credit. It's just a review of the courses that you maybe have taken. So, what is a covered institution? A covered institution is an institution that certifies 20 or more beneficiaries in a calendar year. And those are, so as a new certifying official, when you start, you do your new SCO training to become designated. But then after that, that training cycle is over, you should switch yourself from new to existing in your profile. And then if you work at a covered institution, there's only 4,562 covered institutions this year, or from last year. And we publish that on this website here. There's a link on this slide. So there's an Excel spreadsheet, and you can just filter by facility code or your school's name, and you can look to see if you're determined to be a covered institution. And it's kind of cool because the spreadsheet actually breaks down how many veterans you've had in each chapter. But beware that sometimes the numbers don't add up to the total because it's per Social Security number. So if you had somebody using more than one benefit, the total might not equal if you add up all the chapters. So if you work at a covered institution, then there are the annual training requirements that you're mandated to complete due to the Cole-Mary law. And so I highly encourage, even if you don't work at a covered institution, that you still participate in our trainings because they're super helpful to stay up to date on everything. But on paper, these are the only people that we assess at the end of a training cycle, is the people that are working at a covered institution. We care about the rest of you, but those are the only people that the law states that we have to monitor. Does that make sense? So this is the annual training requirements roadmap. So our training cycle runs October 1st of each year to August 31st of each year. So we do take, for existing school certifying officials, the month of September to do our reporting. New SCOs can still go in and take the new SCO training during that period, but it's shut down for existing SCOs. And again, hopefully as we look at getting a new portal, some of this will get a little bit easier. And then this is the number of modules, if you do work at a covered institution, that you have to complete. It's just 4. So if you went to 4 office hours, you're done. It's not a lot. And there's the self-paced trainings in the portal that you can take. And then your attendance at this conference, a lot of these sessions are qualified for going and self-certifying. So the number of modules that you need to complete is based on your facility type, but it looks like we have mostly IHL and NCD here. And this is how you will self-certify your attendance at an office hours training, your attendance here. So you're going to want to make sure you have this slide. So after you attend this conference, you can go self-certify for anything you attended here at Waves. And anytime you attend an office hours, you're going to want to go on and make sure you self-certify your attendance. If I were you, even if you don't work at a covered institution, I would still have pretty good records of what you've attended. just as a paper trail, it's helpful to have. So these are some different training resources that we have. The National Training Team mailbox, I'm actually the face behind that most days. So if you're emailing that, it's usually me that's responding. And we can talk to you in that mailbox about certifying official training portal access and use, approved training credit and progress tracking, and then Adobe Connect registration and access. And Adobe Connect is that platform that we use for all of our office hours that Brendan Fitzgerald hosts. The office hours Q&A, if you've been to, has everybody here been to an office hours? Raise your hand if you've been to an office hours. Okay, if you haven't been, I would highly recommend coming to one. But once you come to the office hours, at the end, we always have a Q&A period, and there's a lot of questions asked, so we can't answer them all live like we would love to, but there's a lot of school certifying officials out there. So if you come and you ask a question, we won't necessarily answer it live, guaranteed, but we do have this website here where we do post all of our Q&A after our office hours. And that training portal technical support, that's what I talked about. If you have to like change your email address, or if you self-certified something that you didn't mean to self-certify, or you put the wrong date in, and they're really fast at getting back to people. They respond very quickly. And then for any of you that maybe aren't getting the notifications about our office hours, that Gov delivery is where you need to go subscribe. So that is noted there. So good advice from an SEO for an SEO, attend every VA office hours. I just said that, right? Another good advice, keep your files organized, review what is needed for compliance surveys, and file what is needed as the student is enrolled. It will help you not only for surveys, but also for when you go back and review if needed. So that brings us to compliance surveys. And I'm gonna have to speed this train up, y'all. So the compliance surveys are conducted to ensure that VA payments going to the schools and students enrolled at the school are based on proper and correct enrollment information. And then they just help you understand the requirements of the law, so we're preventing deficiencies or violations that could develop because of misunderstandings. So there's records review and retention. You're required to maintain your records for us. All records and accounts of the schools pertaining to veterans and eligible persons must be available for examination. The effect of this provision is to allow VA to examine necessary records that may be restricted under laws regarding privacy of student records. Failure to make records available may result in discontinuance of education assistance benefits. And then the big thing here is just the 3 years. And there's some CFRs, and then the 3 years. So keep your approval up to date. It is the foundation for all of your veterans. You're gonna wanna make sure you're keeping that up to date. And that comes to the state approving agencies. So the state approving agencies, it kind of goes back to the 1945. That's when they were kind of created, with the 79th Congress passed the public law to have the state approving agencies. Each state would establish an SAA that would be supported through funding from the Department of Veterans Affairs, and each SAA would determine which education and training programs were appropriate for veterans to enroll in and use for their GI Bill benefits. So does everybody know who their state approving agency people are? Raise your hand if you don't know. Okay. I know they have some SAA sessions coming. I would highly recommend you get to know your state approving agency. Make friends with them. They do good work. They work really hard. I can't speak highly enough about the state approving agencies. They do a lot of things. So their primary focus is to make sure that they're getting your catalog approvals up to date and making sure it all meets the letters of the law. They might provide guidance to military installation-based personnel with education offerings. They do compliance surveys, technical assistance, agency management, and they do have like a cooperative agreement with VA. So VA oversees the cooperative agreement. Your ELRs of jurisdiction work with them on their cooperative agreement, and then they also do a bunch of outreach. So really, like the program approval part is they make sure that the programs meet the necessary approval requirements. They previously approved programs will be reviewed by the SAA of jurisdiction during those catalog reviews, and the jurisdiction will communicate what documents are required from the school, and they are required to reevaluate schools every 24 months. So if they come to you and say they need to look at your catalog, it's not because you're in trouble necessarily, it's probably because it's just 24 months. And then after you submit everything to the SAA, your ELR of jurisdiction should get you the VA Form 1998, and that will have all your approved programs on it. And you should make sure you review it for accuracy. So here's when to contact your ELR, or when to contact your SAA. You can kind of read through those. I do want to give some time for Q&A. So these are a lot of different, These are the, this is what I talked about, Muskogee and Buffalo. You already won that quiz. Those are the states, so a lot of the West states are managed in Muskogee. And I think we have somebody coming in from Muskogee to speak to. Some different important phone numbers for you. I'm not going to read through all of those. And then Ask VA, that's where you can submit internet inquiries. You do have to have like a ID.me or login.gov, but you already have to have that for Enrollment Manager, so you should be set to get on Ask VA. Just some resources here, and this is how you'll self-certify today. Ask questions, no matter how simple you think they are, ask. So this is a summary of what we learned today. Okay. Now we need that last video, my AV folks. So this is the second attempt. Look up! Yeah! Okay, so he's 6 in that video. And after the first attempt where he just like crashed out and spun around, he walks up to me, he's like, it's okay, sometimes when you try things for the first time, it doesn't work, but you just have to be brave and try again. So that's my advice to you. If you feel like you just crashed out and that things were really hard and you just rub the dirt off, and the next time you try it, it's gonna be easier and you're gonna do well. So with that, I want to thank you for your time. There is a QR code on here where you can say really nice things about me and tell them how fabulous I was. And there also will be a few minutes here for Q&A, and I think Darcy will be leading that for us.
Yes, we have some microphones set up here in the aisles, so we have about 10 minutes for questions. So please, if you have any, just head on up to the microphone and we'll be ready for you.
Can I just ask if you can go back to slide 97?
Yes.
Which was the contact, the one with all the contacts on it?
Sure. Tell me when to stop. Oh, 97, right there. Oh. I did something bad. Oh. This one?
Yes, that one. And then I also have one additional question. I know you said that I know that we're not determining eligibility for benefits, but one of the things I just wanted to double check, when you were talking about Chapter 30, is there still a delimiting date of 10 years from their last date of active duty for that benefit? Is that still in place?
I believe so.
Okay.
I would have to double check because I don't work in that processing area, but I can check.
Okay, perfect. Just because it wasn't mentioned, I just wanted to double check on that.
Yep.
Go ahead, next question.
I have a question regarding the post 9/11 Chapter 33 eligibility for National Guardsmen. You said Title 32 time counts towards Chapter 33 eligibility?
That one I'm going to have to get back to you on as well. I apologize.
Okay.
And the two people that had questions, can you get their names? Can you give Darcy the names so that I can make sure that I follow up with you?
So really quickly, this is actually just for my own internal optimism. Over here, to your right, sorry.
Hello, sorry.
You were mentioning the approval manager software.
Yeah.
Is that going to standardize what SAAs use for us to submit catalog approvals so that we can update WEAMs?
That is the goal.
Okay,
That is the
good.
goal, and I am being as optimistic as you, like,
Because that, unfortunately, the first thing I did when I started my job at Oregon Tech last year was a catalog approval. It took 7 months for it to be done.
yeah.
For them to approve it. We got it done in 3 weeks, but it took 7 months for some reason. And it was very chaotic. So I'm hoping.
Yeah, and we all watched Enrollment Manager roll out, and there were like some defects with Enrollment Manager. So the first iteration might not be perfect, but then there's like they do enhancements on Enrollment Manager like once a month, and it'll be similar with Approval Manager. I have seen some of the wireframes for Approval Manager. I will say I'm very pleased to see the updates. So, and they are working with the SAA and the people that work in the SAAs to try and make sure that we're doing everything to make it as easy as possible for everybody involved. Because as an ELR, we would get the state approving agency would get the list, they would type it up. It's like an interesting process.
Yeah.
So
Well-
Approval Manager is supposed to digitize a lot of it.
My own feedback on Enrollment Manager as well is that our experience at Oregon Tech with Enrollment Manager has been outstanding. So you all are doing a wonderful job.
Oh,
So
good.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah.
First of all, next time, just don't let them take 40 years to change it.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Hello. Question about rate of pursuit.
Sure.
And, on the va.gov website, it actually states that you just have to be taking one class in person to receive full monthly housing allowance. And the rate of pursuit shouldn't matter, or does it still count?
As long as they're taking one class in person, it should be okay.
It should be okay, correct?
Yep.
You were mentioning that it was different, so, or no? Like they had to take over 50% of their rate of pursuit had to be in person during the slides?
That one I will have to, in VRNE for sure, it was only one class. It may vary different based on chapter. So let me check on that. Can you give Darcy your name and I can double check on that for you?
Sure, can do.
And you have a question here. Do you have a mic? Yeah. Yep. This one, right? Yeah, you're welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Matt Fuentes with the CNM Veteran Resource Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The SEO handbook gives suggestions on the SEO and student-to-student ratio. Has that been updated, or does it take into consideration the mandated second certification, as well as the shift in the debt management, the overpayment and underpayments to the school,
It still says 1 to 200 in the handbook, correct?
correct?
Yeah, that is still the recommendation. I can check with our policies and procedures team and see if they have shifted that based on the changes that you just described.
Thank you.
I know the SCO handbook, like they need to do a few updates to it. And I don't know what the schedule of when that will happen is, but I will check on that. Let me just write that down though, because otherwise I'll forget. Go ahead.
Is anybody else?
Is there
Okay,
more?
I've got one more.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Oh, you're, no, well, no, you got a question. Okay, fine. Thanks. Let's do it. And this is maybe for my peers here, and if you grab me afterwards. What platforms or programs are schools using for online record keeping and file keeping methods? And are there best practices recommended by the VA for digital file management and records? The SEO handbook talks about files and left-hand and right-hand side and really indicates paper files.
Yeah, it's probably not been updated to that, and I would check with your peers on which systems they are using. The VA doesn't have any specific recommendations. That left side, right side was from paper files.
Exactly.
When they still did that. But VA doesn't, that I know of, have any recommendation of specific software to use.
Okay. So this is just the invitation. If anybody has an online system that is awesome and amazing and you absolutely love, come talk to me.
Morning.
Good morning.
So I've got a student who is using Chapter 33, and when he also is in the reserves. When he signed up for the reserves, they said they would give him a $350 kicker to use on top of his GI Bill benefits, but they won't use it unless he's using Chapter 30. But they said that he also has 12 months of Chapter 30 after his Chapter 33 benefit expires. Has this ever been a thing?
That sounds a little bit odd to me.
Yeah, that's what I was
I think
thinking.
they would have to, he'd have to contact the GI Bill hotline with our processing center. Without having his record and everything in front of us, it would be really hard to make any type of determination.
Okay.
Hi, Kendra, Colorado School of Mines. I had a question on one of the slides you had mentioned. After a student relinquishes a benefit, they cannot use it again. So if a student's using Chapter 33 and they qualify for one of the other chapters to continue to receive benefits, they can't go back to Chapter 33 and use those benefits if they have that?
It's if they relinquish their 30.
Okay,
Yep.
just wanted to confirm. I was like, did I miss something?
No,
Okay.
no, it's if they relinquish their 30.
30, okay,
And there's those two exceptions.
okay, thank you.
Hi, good morning. Erica Sylvester with Samuel Marit University. My question is in regards to the Chapter 33. You had mentioned that there's a dual certification. I haven't been doing 2 certifications, so can you explain what that is or how it works?
Sure. So you'll do your initial certification. A lot of people do it with $0 in the tuition and fees to avoid debts. And then in the second certification, which would fall, sorry, I don't have the slides up there. It's within 30 days of your ad drop period.
It's after the drop ad period has
Yeah.
ended, or 30 days or more after the start of the term, or less than 60 days after the start of the term. So,
Yes.
yes, if there's no
Yeah.
drop ad.
Okay, say that all again. So I do one certification prior to the start of the term.
Yes.
And I put $0.
Well, it
then-
depends if you do zero or not. Each school does that differently, but if you do the $0, yes, you would put $0. And then after the drop add period, you would amend or to either confirm what you had submitted or to change what you need to add. Or if you don't have a drop add period, or if it's a non-term program, then it's more than 30 days after you had done that, started that mod or semester, or less than 60 days after. So it's between 30 and 60 days you have to do that second cert if you're non-standard.
Okay. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and it just started with Isaacson and Rowe in 2019 is when that became, but yeah, this SEO handbook has been updated for that part. I do know that, because I have used that.
All right, and then we are at time now, so thank you all for joining. Thank you, Marit, this was really
Thank
great.
you so much, everybody.
What side are we gonna be on? Side.
Where is it?
And then I can.
Well, we can just leave it like this and you can stand there. You can just stand right here.
Well, but so we're gonna.
Yeah, so then
So I'm doing. Well, I got. Yeah, I'm glad we decided.